VikesNow, I am Dustin Baker. We are here on Week 8 edition. The Vikings will hope to rebound on Thursday Night Football. We got back-to-back primetime games. If you didn't see it already, Vikings-Colts was flexed in Week 9. So we have Thursday Night Football, and then 10 days later, Sunday Night Football. Vikings lost to the Lions yesterday. I told my wife, driving back home from Minneapolis to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, where I live, that was my favorite loss at US Bank Stadium of all time. I've gone to nearly every game there since inception, minus the one where my son was born, and we got snowed in for the regular season Giants game in 2022. But that was the first time I think I've ever left US Bank Stadium thinking, this team is in dire need of repair, or I can't believe they lost, or last year when they lost to the Chiefs, although they looked decent, Justin Jefferson was hurt. I left US Bank Stadium feeling the exact same way I did when I entered, optimistic, because they lost fair and square to the Lions by 2 points. In the face of adversity, they bounced back. So I am still ultra confident. I think the Vikings will beat the Rams, and then the schedule gets really mushy in a good way for the Vikings. But on the way back, we get to listen to a lot of talk radio, mostly K-Fan, and there were some folks that are just really low on Sam Darnold right now. So that's what this show is about. We're going to spend some 10, 12, 14 minutes on Sam Darnold. So let's set the table here. Sam Darnold right now ranks 10th per EPA CPOE, which is a efficiency metric that adjudicates a quarterback's expected wins added to his team. He ranks 10th in the NFL. The way that we're treating Darnold right now in the aftermath of their first loss and his relatively quiet past 3 games compared to what he has done, we're acting like he ranks like 25th in the NFL, and all of a sudden he's turned back into a pumpkin or turned back into Sam Darnold. And I just don't understand that. From my eye test, I have already consented the guy is going to make a dumb throw or a dumb decision per game. That is why he is here and not quarterbacking the Jets or the Panthers or stealing Brock Purdy's job in San Francisco. He's a top 10 quarterback right now per EPA, per CPOE, and that's my first. Like, I can just end the show now and be like, what more do you want from a patch over bridge quarterback? So somewhere along the line, we decided that Sam Darnold, probably after week 3, is now held to an elite standard. And that would have been fine during his development in 2018, 2019, because that's what his draft stock suggested. But the game changed for him when he was cast off from the Jets, and they said, we don't want you anymore. He went to the Panthers, and they can't cultivate a quarterback for the life of them. So he just became a journeyman quarterback, and I don't know why. Once he got to the Vikings and his team started 3-0 and he led the NFL in touchdown passes, I didn't start holding him to this elite standard. I thought it was awesome that he looked like an elite quarterback for 3 games, but didn't you know that this would show up? Like, he's not going to be Joe Burrow, even though he's younger than Joe Burrow. That's just not who he is. He's good. He's not that good. So I don't quite get it why we decided after a 3-0 start that we had a top 5 quarterback like for the long haul. He played in a top 5 realm in those first 3 games, but it was never going to last. And you're seeing the Sam Darnold experience. Just by happenstance, his team is 5-1, and that isn't too bad. As of late, was about 8-9 days ago, Pro Football Talk, Mike Florio, they came up with the idea that the Vikings could trade for Matthew Stafford because Kevin O'Connell, Matthew Stafford won a Super Bowl together in Los Angeles 3 years ago. Evidently, he could be in play for the Vikings. Now, Florio, in his final little plank of that argument, caveated that said, this would probably be for an injury. Well, no shit. The Vikings love Sam Darnold. Kevin O'Connell goes out of his way to shower praise on Sam Darnold. There is no way in hell that they're just going to trade for Matthew Stafford tomorrow while Sam Darnold is upright and healthy. If he got hurt, like Cousins last year, completely different story. Then you can probably find a way to finagle a trade with the Rams, who are 2-4, who, by the way, you play on Thursday. But a lot of the callers into K-Fans fan line were talking about Matthew Stafford. And it's like, why are we thinking about him as an option? It'd be cool if if Darnold really sucked in general, or if he was hurt. Yeah, that'd be fun at 5-1 to go get Stafford and let the chips fall. But he's not going to be traded to the Vikings unless Darnold has a Achilles tear or a meniscus tear or any other quarterback injury we've seen as of late. We need to adjust the lens in which we view Sam Darnold. So here's what I mean by that. When I watch Sam Darnold play for these Vikings, and probably how I'll watch him play henceforth when he goes to quarterback Who's going to be quarterback next year? The Raiders, the Titans, the Dolphins if Tua gets another hit. I pretend that I'm watching Kerry Collins or Carson Palmer or Joe Flacco from about 6 years ago or Jay Cutler. That is how I think the upside of Sam Darnold looks. So when he has a great game, that reminds me of what Carson Palmer used to do from time to time. And I never, and I don't think you should either, sit there and watch Darnold and be like, oh, I know there's an elite quarterback in there and it's going to be consistent. This is going to be the one stops with Minnesota Vikings is where he fulfills all of his destiny. I just don't think that way. And I think you're going to aggravate yourself if you sit there and you hope, well, the Vikings found this misunderstood Joe Burrow for $10 million in free agency. So I would challenge you that when you watch Sam Darnold games, pretend, if you're close to my age, that you're watching Kerry Collins. Your life will be better because your expectations will be different. If the Vikings are really going to get to the NFC Championship or get to the Super Bowl, win the Super Bowl, it's going to be because Darnold was clutch in January and February, but the defense guided the enterprise. Kind of like Joe Flacco and the Ravens in 2012 when they beat the 49ers. It doesn't have to be quite like that Ravens defense from 2000, but the Vikings, if they're going to get deep into the postseason and or Super Bowl, it's going to be because the defense had a one-game hiccup against the Lions. It's not going to be because Stafford all of a sudden is this top 5 quarterback consistently. Think about this, too. Right now, through 6 games, 5-1 record, Sam Darnold's on pace to throw for about 3,800 yards, 34 touchdowns, and 14 interceptions. And we're wondering, is he turning into a pumpkin? Is that good enough? Can it get the job done? On pace for 34 touchdowns and 14 interceptions. If this was J.J. McCarthy producing this stat line, we would be enamored. But because it's Darnold, who is, 26, 27, we're like, meh, he hasn't played very well the last 3 games. Vikings are only 2-1 in those games. I'm out. You need to look at the grand picture. This murderer's row on the Vikings schedule that we talked about all spring and summer is over. Now, the Rams, I'm sure they'll put up their best effort, and maybe they'll even beat the Vikings. But out of the gate, the Vikings beat the Giants, who weren't very good. Then the 49ers, who I still think are good, even though they lost Brandon Ayuk. Houston Texans are certifiably good. The Packers are really good. Gets on my nerves. And then the Jets were mid, of course, and they probably will continue to be mid, although the Jets have a really easy schedule. Don't you forget it. If they decide they're good, they have one of the easiest schedules in the league. And then they lost yesterday to the Lions, the Vikings, that is. So the schedule is going to open up. And for Darnold's sake, he's not going to face the Jets defense, which was really wonderful that day in London. And then don't look now, the Lions have a top 10 defense per EPA and DVOA too. So it's going to become more smooth sailing if you want Darnold to right the ship and, get back into his would-be elite category that we've placed him in. It's not going to be this difficult to schedule all of the time. And we knew this from the beginning when the schedule was released in May. Darnold was never going to be the team's savior. Now, if he takes them on a deep postseason run like Case Keenum, I guess this franchise just has a special sauce for stuff like that. But if we're starting to wonder if Darnold is here for the long haul or if we're spitballing Matthew Stafford trade theories, if we're questioning whether or not Darnold is the solution, the answer is no. He is a bridge quarterback to J.J. McCarthy. Now, J.J. McCarthy found his way to the team with the 10th overall pick in April, and Darnold was there to nurture him along the way. And Darnold would probably play at least 6-7 games this season before the baton. Maybe that baton organically would have been passed right now to McCarthy. Who knows? But I don't know why we would get fussy about Sam Darnold not playing great the last 3 games when he's not even the long-term guy in the future. It was more than fair game for 6 seasons to wonder if Kirk Cousins was worth $40 million per season. But Darnold's playing on a $10 million contract right now. You get what you pay for. He is affordable. He's by right now completely outplaying that contract, investing it. It's just probably not going to be sustainable, and there's a reason that he wasn't signed to a 4-year deal for $60 million or something like that. It was a bridge assignment to get to McCarthy, who is still the would-be savior of the franchise, who was actually there yesterday at US Bank Stadium for the first time on the sidelines. So for the folks that still want to salvage this season, you'll recall that I now infamously thought this Vikings team would finish 7-10. I don't think they'll finish that bad. I don't think we're on the verge of an utter collapse. But I think they will finish about 12-5 or so, 13-4 if things go great. I don't know how we decided. Maybe it was because of the 5-0 start. And the Vikings do play really balanced on offense, defense, and then most special teams is pretty good. But if you perceive what's going on right now as house money, Darnold is playing the best he ever has. You're making the best out of a season where your first round rookie quarterback got hurt. That hardly ever happens to anybody, but of course it happened to the Vikings. I think you'll be happier on Thursday nights, Sunday nights, Sundays afternoons at noon watching a Vikings game. If you realize that they've overachieved right now, and anything they do from here on out until we get to the McCarthy era is kind of gravy. That's how I look at it. That's why this team doesn't utterly dictate my mood in a season like this, is because I didn't see them starting 5-0 or now 5-1, and it just feels like a perk and fun that they have. If Sam Darnold wants to be in the top 10 of the MVP race, great. If he can take us to the NFC Championship and we lose there, great. I've seen that before too many times in my life. I'm used to it. It's not until I think that J.J. McCarthy begins to develop that we can hold these guys, all of them, to this real thick standard of, it's not good enough anymore to get to the NFC Championship and lose. That's all we ever see this team do. But it's just not the time to do it with Sam Darnold as the quarterback for $10 million, especially in a season where you were forecasted to win about 6 or 7 games. So from here on out, don't consider Sam Darnold as an elite quarterback because he's not. When he plays elite, you're like, sweet. I knew that guy had some juice. He's got the arm talent there. Pretend you're watching Kerry Collins or Carson Palmer, and trust me, you'll be a lot happier. All right, I will be heading to Los Angeles early Wednesday morning, so this is my last correspondence with you guys and gals until probably next weekend sometime, this weekend sometime when I get back. But 5-1, you can hang your hat on that. It's been a fun season so far, and these guys look really good at times. Skol, baby.